What have I done? Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 106 of Brett on Fett. And if you watched my ICCC coverage video last week when I was going over my pickups, I hinted that I had one big pickup that I was going to wait until the next video to reveal. And that was actually my first hot toy, being 000. So in this video today, I'm going to go over that. But not only that, the actual first Sideshow figure I ever purchased was a pre-order for the Clone Wars Cad Bane. I pre-ordered that a year ago, and that was going to be my first Sideshow / hot toy figure ever. And that Cad Bane figure arrived this week. So these are my first 6-scale figures. It's very dangerous that I'm diving into this territory. I do not plan on being a collector of 6-scale things, but I had to try out these two. I love doctoraphra and her murder droids, and so I had to get that 000. And my good friend Brad Vandiver helped make that happen. I'll explain a little bit later when we get into it. But before I get into my review of these two new 6-scale figures, there were some recent reveals at the MCM Comic Con in London, and I just want to give my quick thoughts on some of those reveals for Black Series and TVC. So let's take a look. All right, so another MCM Comic Con is underway this weekend in London, and as usual, there were some Hasbro reveals. We'll go ahead and start with the Black Series, where they announced this new Sebulba from the Phantom Menace. We've had a bunch of important characters from the Phantom Menace missing in both the Vintage Collection and the Black Series, and Sebulba is one of those. He was in my top 5 missing figures for the Phantom Menace in the Vintage Collection. So I am glad to see that Sebulba has at least made it to one of the new Hasbro lines. Albeit, if I put my TVC collector hat on, I have to say I'm a little perturbed that Black Series once again gets an important figure first, because it just seems like the Black Series is known for getting all of the new media figures first, but lately it seems like Black Series is even getting the never done before legacy characters way before the Vintage Collection. Hammerhead comes to mind, Ki-Adi-Mundi and the Theed Palace Attack Padme are just a couple of others that come to mind, those also being from the Phantom Menace. And all in all, it doesn't really matter which line gets the character first, as long as both lines get the character. And, you know, when it comes to legacy characters, I think of the Vintage Collection as the legacy collection, so to speak. It's the original 3 3/4 scale line. The Black Series is a newer line, so I'm fine with the Black Series getting new media characters first. But when it comes to legacy characters that we've been waiting to get, I feel like the priority should go to the Vintage Collection. But again, as long as TVC gets Sebulba, we're fine. But if we have to wait years and years, that is extremely frustrating. It's really starting to turn off TVC fans. But anyways, this Black Series Sebulba does look really good. I like what I see here. Looks like he's got all kinds of articulation. I like that they threw in that little lizard food thing from the scene with Jar Jar, so great touch there, and this is just going to be a very fantastic release. The other two Black Series reveals I did not see press release photos for yet, but we did get some photos from the con from Twin Sons Collecting, and the next one up is Luminara Unduli. Now, ironically, I just got through talking about how the Black Series is getting all these legacy characters first and TVC's having to wait. Well, this is a character that TVC already had, but Black Series has not, at least not in the 6-inch scale. The Black Series 3 3/4 scale had Luminara, which was just repacked in the TVC line under that Clone Wars packaging. But the figure looks good as far as I can tell. It looks like that is mostly soft goods on Luminara. And then finally for Black Series, yet another legacy character that TVC still does not have, and that is Shock T. Really wanting a Shock T in TVC, so maybe we'll get her and Sebulba together someday soon. But as far as I can tell, this figure also looks fantastic. Really loving the cloth goods on Shock T. So 3 all new, really good prequel trilogy releases for the Black Series. So switching over to the Vintage Collection, just 2 reveals, starting with a Phantom Menace reveal of their own, but it's a repack, and a really surprising one. I did not see this coming. It's Aura Singh, which is a repack. Great TVC 1.0 figure, lots of accessories, and she can be expensive on the secondary market, so, you know, not a terrible idea to repack her. I was just a little bit surprised, and frankly a little disappointed that, you know, Black Series is getting a lot of all-new Phantom Menace figures, and we just haven't seen that on TVC. Now, a trend I do like with TVC is on the repacks, they are at least giving us an alternate card back. I think that's a great idea, so it helps to keep the value for those of us who kept those TVC 1.0s mint on card. So I really like that they're doing that. We saw them recently reveal the repack of Dr. Evazan with an all-new card back and a great image at that. So at least Hasbro's doing that now when they give us these repacks. My only question now is, will they give it the same VC number but with an A on the end, or just keep it the same number? They never seem to know what to do with the VC numbers in these situations. And finally for TVC, we got a look at the new Lieutenant Callahan figure. Of course, this is the pilot that goes with the E-Wing that's coming out. We knew Callahan was coming, we just hadn't seen her yet, and she looks good. She looks about as good as I expected. I really like her helmet, and I think this is a mostly new pilot figure, and she looks like she's slightly petite. Like, this doesn't look like it's intended for both male and female. It looks like a female pilot body to me, and, you know, it looks good. I'll definitely pick up 2, one to put in my new E-Wing and one to keep carded. My only question is how I'm going to get another copy of the droid, because I only ordered 1 E-Wing and I need to keep him carded, so I'm going to need another one loose. I'm just hoping he won't be too expensive on the secondary market. But that was it for the Hasbro Star Wars reveals at MCM Comic Con. Pretty much a win for the Black Series with those 3 great prequel trilogy releases, and very ho-hum for TVC with 1 repack and just a reveal of a figure we knew we were getting. Alright, so as you guys probably know, I am a big doctoraphra fan. I love 000 and BD1. And when Hot Toys announced this Sideshow exclusive 000, I really wanted to get this thing ordered, but they only made, I think, 2,000, and it sold out in seconds. I could not get it. I was very disappointed because I was going to get this one and then go ahead and get the BD1. But since I couldn't get 000, I didn't order a BD1. But at ICCC, someone was selling it for not that much over the original retail price. And my buddy Brad Vandiver, he actually saw it first, and he collects a lot of Hot Toys, so he actually bought it, but then he showed it to me, and I explained that I've been looking for it, and I really, really wanted it, and he knows how much I like 000, and so being the awesome guy he is, he allowed me to buy it from him for what he paid for it, and so I really appreciate it, Brad. And by the way, as soon as I bought this from Brad, I went ahead and ordered the BT1 as well, but that hasn't arrived yet. I think it's supposed to get here sometime in November. So again, this is my very first Hot Toys figure. I'm really excited. Let's take a look at the box. It's a really nice box, very thick cardboard. And let's see, it says here 000, 6 scale collector series, die cast, Hot Toys, and it just looks really good. So let's get this bad boy open. Now, full disclosure, Brad and I did open this already over at ICCC, and that's because we bought it from a stranger in a lobby sale, not a retailer, so we wanted to make sure it had everything. So I did unwrap a few things before just to check it all out, make sure it was all there. But I really love the packaging that Hot Toys does. Everything was really well protected. The head was protected and fully wrapped before. We just didn't put that back on. There is the base plate for the stand, and there is the other part of the stand. He's got some extra hands here, ones without his weapons on there, and then he's got ones where he's shooting these lightning bolts, kind of like Palpatine. It's not force though, it's just electrical stuff that he uses to torture people because he's a psycho. And there's the other hand. So there's everything out of the box. It also came with these 2 extra pegs for the wrists, I guess. That's nice, you know, in case you lose them or break them, I guess. Let's go ahead and take a look at 000. By the way, this thing is heavy. It is die-cast metal. It feels great. The paint job is excellent. And I've heard some people complain that it's too silvery and not dark enough because 000 is a very dark. He's almost black, but really if you look at the comics, it just depends on the comic strip and the artist and just the lighting, I guess you would call it, for certain things, because there are images where he does look more gunmetal gray like this than black. And so I think this is an excellent choice. I think it looks better than if they were to do it in black. I love gunmetal gray, and this just turned out so nice. I love the details that go into this. I'm just not sure what could be better about this so far. The detailing, the paint job, and check out the articulation, how the piston retracts there. That is amazing. I didn't expect that. And then let's look at the hands, the details of all these little weapons. Each weapon is different on his fingers. They didn't cut any corners. Look at that, there's a saw blade. I'll probably keep these weaponized hands on him most of the time, but I like having the regular hands as well as the electrical ones too. Very cool. I think this figure has all the articulation you're gonna need to pose a protocol droid. And check out the knees. I love that clicking sound as you retract them. It just feels really well built. Got a little bit of articulation at the ankles. You don't need much. Again, it's a protocol droid. He carries himself, rather stiffly. So you just don't need that much. Head swivels and nods, plenty. But again, I can't say enough of how well built this thing feels when you're picking it up and handling it. And it's also very well balanced. Has a good center of gravity. Of course, I'll use a stand, but you really don't need the stand. Once I fix the ankles, it feels very sturdy. So a really neat feature is the eyes actually light up on 000. So you just take the face mask off. You undo this little battery compartment. You've got 3 tiny little watch batteries in there. Let's get that battery cover back on. And it does have a nice little on and off switch there towards the bottom. So you just flip it on. There's the LED light. And you put the faceplate back on, and there are his glowing eyes. Now on my video, it appears more of a orangish red, or maybe more appropriately a reddish orange. But I'm telling you, in person, it is actually a straight red. It is exactly like it should be from the comics. It's just my camera adding that orange tint to it for some reason, so don't worry about that. It does look really good in person. So here is 000 on the stand, and I gotta tell you, I am super impressed with this figure. It's a great choice for a first hot toy, and I totally get why collectors fork over the money to collect hot toys because they are done so well, and 000 is no exception. I cannot wait to get BT1 in the mail to go with this guy. I'm sure I will do a review video for that one as well. Now hopefully this doesn't mean I get the bug and start actually collecting hot toys. I have no intention of collecting hot toys, but that being said, if they make a doctoraphra, of course I'm going to have to get her to go with the 2 murder droids. All right, next up is the Sideshow Collectibles Clone Wars version of Cad Bane. The Clone Wars version of Cad is my favorite version of him, and he's probably my favorite character that came out of the Clone Wars animated series. Just really like this bounty hunter. He's very cool. And so this is my first Sideshow Collectibles 6-scale figure. Let's get the box open, and right away I can tell that the packaging is not quite as premium as the Hot Toys packaging, but it's still done very well. Everything is nice and protected. Very similar to the Hot Toys, but just not as much protection, I'd say. Check out this satchel, man. This feels really premium. I really like the materials here. And there is his little droid, Toto360. Looking pretty good. Let's just put him to the side. He's got some articulation. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. There is some flame effects. That's for his little boot rockets. Here is a look at his pistols. Looking really good. Feels really high quality. There's the other pistol. Let's see. There are his boot rockets with those flame effects. So I guess those other flame effects are actually for Toto360, obviously. Let's get him out of here. Let's take the bag off, take these off, and let's just put him off to the side. Here's the other tray. It's got its own little protection there. There is the stand. I guess that's the flight stand. Seems pretty tall. And there is the base for the stand. Looking pretty good. And here is his hat. Really love the Clone Wars Cad Bane hat with that huge brim. Looks really cool. Here's a bunch of different hands. There's like, I guess, a trigger finger hand. There's another one where it's slightly open. And then he's got these hands where he's got his fingers really spread wide apart, like he's about to go for his gun in the holster. So there's a look at all the accessories and everything that comes inside the box. Let's take a closer look at Cad himself. Head sculpt looks fantastic. Love the paint job. There is a look at his respirator, which has a very metallic feel to it. And man, I love the upholstery on the jacket. Of course, this is my first premium figure with an outfit, and I just love the leather, the stitching, and the quality of the cloth goods is just amazing. I really understand all of the hype for the people that collect these premium Sideshow and Hot Toys 6-scale figures. It's just, you can't get this type of quality with a Black Series or Vintage Collection figure, not even close. The attention to detail is just next level. I love how the pants and the leggings are totally different material and how the color changes on the leggings. The shin guards are totally separate material, and there at the boots, she's got a little bit of flexibility. But let's look at that articulation. His head has plenty range of motion there, all the range you would need. He's got some good joints there at the shoulder, and they're actually like butterfly joints, so you can move it outward like that. So that's great. That's going to help a lot with getting into all kinds of poses. His elbow bends 90 degrees, more than 90 degrees, so that's great. His wrist has a swivel and a hinge, so that's good. So plenty of upper body articulation. There at the leg, it's got, I guess, a hinge or maybe a ball hinge. You can move it around as much as you would need to. Knee bends just fine. And then the ankle, just a little bit of motion, not as much as I'd probably like to have. His torso does swivel as much as you could need. It's got a really good crunch there, so yeah, no problems there. I'd say the articulation is fantastic with maybe the exception of the ankles, just not a lot of range of motion there. Let's take a look at Toto 360. The paint job is really good, but he does feel a little bit light and, kind of fragile. Doesn't feel like, there's just not a lot of weight to him. It's definitely like a plastic with just a metallic paint on it. And there's some articulation, but not at the knees or the elbows. It's got like sort of butterfly joints there at the legs. So you can move him around a little bit, but like I can't straighten that left leg. And that's kind of disappointing. Just really disappointing that they didn't give him hinges on the knees. They did so much stuff on this figure overall with Cad Bane. It seems like they cut a few corners here with Toto 360. I think if they had just added joints at the knees and elbows, that would have gone a long way. So that's my first complaint, is that Toto is lacking in the articulation. He just feels a little bit light. I want to look at that satchel again. I wanted to see if it opens, and it does. It's got two tiny little magnets on there, so that's really cool. And it's got just like a block in there that just kind of keeps it from maintaining its shape. I guess you can just leave that in there. I don't know if you need to take that out or why you would want to, but it's kind of interesting that the satchel actually opens. And by the way, his little boot rockets use a magnet to attach, so I thought that was pretty neat. I think that's a nice way of doing it versus snapping it on. And of course, it's got those flame effects if you want to use those. Now, here's another issue I have is with the holsters. His blaster pistols do not go all the way in securely. It's got those long barrels on the pistol, and so that entire holster is taken up by the barrel, and it just doesn't feel secure. It doesn't fall out. I don't know if they're using a magnet or it just somehow it's hanging on there, but I don't like how the blasters don't fit securely in the holsters. Not sure if that's canon or what. I'll have to go back and look at the picture of Cad, but it just seems like the pistol should go in a little bit deeper and more securely. So I was able to get a clip of him from the Clone Wars that showed his holsters from a good angle, and it does appear that the figure does it accurately. You can see like the scope of his pistol does not go inside, and it seems to line up just like it is on the show. So I think I was probably wrong on this. I still feel like it seems very insecure. It's like only the barrel is going into the holster, so it's a little bit awkward, but I guess that's how it is on the show, so they're just matching that. So here is Cad on the regular stand, and it's really cool how Toto kind of flies next to him. He's got a little skinny little bar / wire thingy that plugs into the back of the stand, and it holds him up in the air and you can move him around. One point I wanted to make though, just like I did with 000, is that even though you probably want to use the stand because this thing is expensive, you want to protect it, you don't necessarily have to, because it's got a very good center of gravity. Once you pose it properly, it feels very solid standing on its own. So just wanted to make that point. And I went ahead and threw him on the spinny just so you can get a good feel for how everything looks from all angles. And here he is in flight mode using the flight mode taller stand. And I could probably do a better job of posing him so he looks cooler. But this was just my first shot at it. And if you look, I put the little holder The flight stand holder kind of goes around like the hips, and so I just kind of tucked that under his jacket so you don't see it. So the flight stand works great. I just got to spend some more time practicing posing figures in flight mode. I'm not used to doing that. Never owned a figure that I put in a flight mode position, so I'll work on that, but it's pretty cool. Overall, very happy with this Cad Bane figure. Everything feels very premium, especially the cloth goods. The only complaints I have on this figure is with the lack of articulation in the elbows and knees on the Toto 360, and the fact that he just feels really light, feels very plasticky. And then I guess the lack of articulation in the ankles. I was a little uncomfortable with the holster situation, but having checked that on the Clone Wars itself, it does seem they matched the look of how the guns fit in his holster to begin with, so can't really complain about that. Everything else is just amazing on this figure. He looks really good, love the quality of it. So really happy with my first two premium 6 scale figures, Hot Toy 000 and the Sideshow Clone Wars Cad Bane. Love these characters, very happy with these figures, can't wait to get BT1 and then possibly a doctoraphra if Hot Toys decides to make her, and hopefully that will round out and be the end of my collecting of these figures, not because they're not awesome, because they are, but just because I just don't have the room and they're just so pricey. But I will say, as pricey as they are, you really do feel like you get what you pay for with the quality of how these things are made. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new Hot Toys 000 and Sideshow Cad Bane, and if you're a collector of the 6 scale figures. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Thank you to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram. Take care, and we'll see you next time.